It's Rachel with Rachel Kohler Dog Training, and I'm here with Susan with Pack Leader Dog Training. We're here for our weekly Q&A. Things are looking a little different this week. Susan, what are you doing?
I'm outside because it's like 75 degrees outside, so
Nice.
we're here. I got Little over here.
Aww.
So yeah, I'm just trying to get as much outside time as possible.
Nice. And I am back home in Virginia. So I've got Blue over there and Gaia over there. Gaia, I foster failed, so she came home with me to Virginia, and her and Blue are hanging out on their place together.
Nice.
So it's pretty cool. I love having her here.
And it looks like things are going great.
Yeah, they're working on just existing together right now, and they're doing really good.
Good.
So, and then I also have Charlie. I have a bearded dragon in that tank right there. So I've got like a whole little zoo in my room right now.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll jump right into it. First question we have, it's kind of a two-parter. So my second question ties into the first one.
Okay.
I tried to teach my dog place yesterday, but she isn't interested in the food or treats I'm offering. Should I try something else?
Yeah, so a couple comments, like you said you just started yesterday, so it's first day. I wouldn't be discouraged at all. And then it's going to depend on a little bit of things. So if this is like your dog, I don't know if it was like a client dog or if it's somebody's dog, right? So you know your dog. Do they have a treat that they prefer over something else? You could always try something higher value. If your dog's not a treat or food type of dog anyways, then you might want to try something else, which I'm going to suggest in a second. But then some dogs, I've noticed when you're like first starting to train them, or even just in the beginning of training sessions, sometimes they don't want to take food because they're kind of like, something's off here. This isn't what like I usually do. And sometimes I wait it out because I've noticed this with a few dogs. I'll like offer them food and they won't eat it, and I'll just keep like doing whatever I'm doing, and then they'll want to eat it again a few minutes later. So you can try waiting them out. You can try offering something higher value, or you can just go with leash pressure. So you would use leash pressure to guide your dog into the place. And then if you're going to do like an auto down like we do, leash pressure to guide them into that. And then the leash pressure is going to come off. And then you can like tell them good job and give them a pet or something. But in this situation, the leash pressure being turned off would be the reward since they're not taking kibble or treats.
So in place of the food reward, they'd actually be rewarded when the leash pressure is gone.
Yeah. I tried to explain that okay.
Yeah, no, it was good. I was just trying to word it a different way.
Yeah.
You know? But another thought I had was, how are they feeding their dog? So are you free feeding your dog?
Oh, that's a good point.
Because if your food is out all the time, then the dog can just eat whenever. They're always full, so they never have a food drive, right? So they're like, why would I work for this food when I can just go over to my bowl and get some food from over there?
Right.
So I would try to have you look at how you're feeding, maybe move to twice a day feeding, and that way it just is more, I mean, it helps with everything, but it would help with this. And you can also decrease some of their food that they're getting. So if you normally feed like 2 cups for the day, you could do 1 cup twice a day, but then take away some of that food and replace it with your training food. So they're getting the same amount of food, you're just using it for training now.
So yeah, that's a really good point about the free feed thing. Because not free feeding your dog is going to be beneficial in a lot of ways. But yeah, if the dog like thinks that they can walk over to their food bowl and eat whenever they want to, they're not going to care to work for their food. So it's a really good point there. Okay, so question 2. How do I make crate training easier for my dog?
Okay, so crate training, we want to make it easier not only for your dog, but for you as well. So we're trying to want to make it easier for both of you. In my experience, it'd be best to do it with an e-collar, and then also a baby cam. Like, that's how I do it. You don't have to do it that way, but it makes life easier for everybody because then you can actually see what the dog's doing rather than if you hear a noise, then you have to get up and inspect the dog. So I would have a camera and an e-collar, and then get the dog used to doing wordlessly, like a low level dial up. So you have your e-collar and you start at like, 2, and then you just low level dial up until they down. The dog might like do a couple spins at first, but after a while, they're just gonna lay down. And that's the first step to it, is because you're instilling in their mind for them to be calm. This is a pretty detailed question, which has a pretty detailed answer, so I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. But you might want to reach out to some of our other videos on low-level dialing up.
Do you have any videos on that?
I don't have a low-level dialing up video. I just have like a separation anxiety video.
No. I asked, I'm planning on making one, but I don't know when that'll happen. But
yeah,
separation anxiety is, I'm sure you were talking about a lot of great stuff in that one too, right?
Yeah, it revolves a lot around the crate. But this is just a question that's really hard to answer in this short amount of time for a Q&A. So I would have you reach out to Rachel, since this was on Rachel's side, her question. Maybe do a one-on-one session with her to get some more detailed answers. But that would be where I'd start, is with the e-collar, baby cam, and every time the dog stands up, low level, dial up. You don't say anything. You just press the button at a 2, dial up a little bit, release, press, dial up, release. So that would be where I would start, is you would just low level dial up every time they stand up, and don't give them any affection for whining. So don't give in to when they whine. If the dog whines, if you go over there and you're like, I can't stand it anymore, and you just open the crate and let them out, then they found that worked for them. Yeah. But what would you suggest?
So you started to touch on it there. The low level dial up is super important, and I would go there. But again, like, it's so much to get into on the Q&A, because a lot of stuff with crate training, there are so many different variables, and you kind of want to like see it, and
Right.
there's problem solving and lots of things that go into it. But low level dial up is a good one. Definitely check out Susan's video on separation anxiety. Funny girl who asked the name is Susan. So Susan, check out Susan's video on separation anxiety. And that's going to be the big thing, what you said about not giving in. So I'm not sure that this isn't going to make it easier, but it's going to make it work, because if every time your dog barks or whines, if you take her out of the crate, then she wins. So that's going to pattern her to think, when I went out of the crate, I just have to like whine and be really annoying, and then I get let out. So it's going to be correcting the nonsense and not letting her win by leaving when it gets annoying. So it's not necessarily going to be easier, but with consistency and some work that you and I can do together, Susan, it will get done. And then once the crate training is done, then it'll be easy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and
that's
another like side note is, how does the rest of the day look? So we can't expect this dog, if we don't have any rules and structure for her in the house, how can we ever expect her to have any rules or structure in the crate? So
right.
if we don't expect anything when she's not in the crate, she doesn't listen or, have any guidance, then we can't really expect her to know what to do inside the crate. So just take a look at how you're acting with her in the house. Does she have rules, boundaries, limitations, that kind of thing? If she doesn't, I would start to implement that outside the crate too.
And then one more side note on your side note, because you made me remember another thought I had, which is, how often is she going in the crate? How often are you even trying to put her in the crate? Because if it's like once a week, once a month, once a year, you're like, oh, let me just throw you in the crate real quick, and then she freaks out and then you let her out. It's not like often, so she's not even getting that practice of learning the crate's okay.
Right.
So with crate training, I think the biggest thing is you have to be really consistent.
All right, my next question is related to the first one, as I said earlier. Is there a certain...
Sorry, I was remembering what your first question was. I got you.
Is there a certain treat that you recommend?
So, I usually train, I would train with like raw hot dogs when I first started training. Raw hot dogs are really gross to train with. So I've recently learned how to make dehydrated hot dogs, less gross. So those are a nice high value
I made those the other day.
I saw that on your story. I was like, look at you, Susan. So that would be my go-to high value treat. You of course need to make sure the dog doesn't have any allergies. And then if it's your dog, which I think it is because it's an owner asking, then you can train with their kibble. So like Susan talked about, not doing free feed. Honestly, you can just proportion out their food for the day, and then throughout the day use that food for training. Now that's not going to work with every dog, but like eventually, like if training is the only time your dog is getting food, they're going to start eating for training. And the reason I bring that up is just because like health wise, like I like to give a lot of food. I like to give a lot of reward. I don't want to give a dog that's so much hot dogs because they're not going to feel great, and I don't want to make them feel sick.
Right.
Like I'd love to incorporate some hot dogs for like some of the more challenging things to give the dog like an extra bonus treat. But when I start offering board and trains, which won't be anytime soon, but when I do, I want to use the dog's food for work, for training, because again, like I want to be able to give you a lot, and it would be better to give a dog more food than they were supposed to get that day than to give a dog like a whole bunch of like hot dogs and stuff that's going to upset their stomach. So it's going to depend on your situation, but if you're looking for something high value, I'd go with like hot dogs. Some dogs like cheese. Find something fun that's easier to like hold for your dog.
And for those dogs that have allergies, so yeah, I'd like to try to use their food when I can, because like Rachel said, we give a lot of food. Like it's just, especially in the beginning, because you're doing so many reps and you want training to be fun, that you just give a lot of food. And so if you can use their diet, you should. But for the high value treats, they do have dehydrated like fish or dehydrated duck liver, like stuff like that. And it's literally just one ingredient, and you can get it at the pet store, like I get at Pet Value. So it's just that ingredient they say it is. So even if it's like whitefish, because I get that one, it's dehydrated whitefish, and it's like pieces like this. So you can like break it up if you want to, but that way it is good for the dogs with allergies, pending whatever allergy they have. But it's still like a really high value treat.
I like it.
No, little, no. Down. Thank you.
Yeah, but the dehydrated stuff is, I think, between that and kibble is probably what I'm due for here on out, because it's raw hot dogs. It's not a lot of fun. And then, like, as a trainer, they're all in a treat pouch, and no. So I would go for something dehydrated, and or their kibble. All right. So question 4 is, my 4-year-old beagle gets bored when I'm working on my laptop. So he tries to find ways to entertain himself, but usually ends up ruining a pair of my shoes, the couch, the rug, etc. What can I do to keep him entertained during the day?
Okay. So that's nice, because it seems like there's a lot of structure in your life. Like I know what you're doing, and we know what time your dog is misbehaving. So now we can actually fix that problem, which is good because it's not like a random scenario. If he always does this when you're on your laptop, then I would utilize the place command. So you teach him place, and that way, like, you can be on your laptop and you have a bed right beside you, or like in the same room, and then you just tell him place, and that way he has a place that he can just relax on, and he's still working. He looks like he's not doing much, but it actually takes a lot for the dog to just lay there and do nothing. Haha. Yeah, so you could do exactly what Rachel's doing. In the interim, if you're like, well, I don't really have, there's going to take some time to build up the place command. You could always put him in the crate and just crate him in the same room with you until you get the place command, under control. Like if you're actually working on your laptop for work, where you can't, there's going to be like a week's time that you have to build up place, and you could always put him in the crate.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'd say. I think instead, like, he's bored and he's looking for ways to entertain himself. That's great. Do fun, entertaining stuff with him when you're not working. But when you're working, he can be working. So I'm working right now doing this Q&A. So these guys are working too. But it's not a matter of he's bored. It's a matter of he's getting to make too many decisions.
Yeah.
So just make those decisions for him,
Nice.
and he'll thank you for it. And so will your furniture and your shoes.
Okay. Question 5. Should I leave the prong collar and the e-collar on my dog all day?
So in the beginning of training, having that prong collar to help the dog with any commands is great, but you have to be able to supervise them, because with the prong collar, it can get like tangled in things. I've seen like a dog rub up against the couch and it get like those like weird couches, and it gets like caught in the couch,
Oh.
or like buckets or whatever. So for safety, and we want to make sure we're using the tool properly. Yes, they can have it on all day long if you're watching them. The heat collar, on the other hand, can stay on all day, all night, whatever. But you're going to be sure to rotate it every 4 hours or so, so they don't get any pressure sores. Because if you have something sitting in one spot all day long, it's going to leave a mark. If I wear a hair bow on my hand all day long, it leaves a mark.
Right.
So just make sure every 4 hours or so you put it on the opposite side. But yeah, that one's completely safe to wear all day. They fit so snugly, it's not going to get caught on anything. If it's nice and secure on the bottom, I know that educators are waterproof, so they're safe. That was my very long answer to yes if you're watching the dog for the prong, and yes all day for the e-collar.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I usually say with the prong collar, if you're actively training and working them, then you have the prong collar on. If they're in their crate or, you're not training them, then I take the prong off. And then with the e-collar, yeah, you can leave it on all day if you want, rotating every 4 hours, like Rachel said. And then when they're in their crate, if it's a dog that has no crate issues, you can take it off to give them a little break.
Right.
But we do use the e-collar on dogs in the crate if they have crate nonsense. So if they have any kind of crate anxiety, then we leave it on in the crate. But if your dog's good in the crate, then you can take it off.
Right. All right. Question 6. Right?
Yep.
How do I stop my dog from jumping on people?
Okay, so my go-to is to correct it. So I'd use a punisher. What is that punisher? You can do like the prong collar and a leash. And so you kind of set them up. You need the dog to do the behavior to correct the behavior. So someone comes in, if it's always at the door, you'd have the leash nice and loose. Person comes in, everybody acts as normal. The second the dog goes to jump, you'd mark it with no, and then a firm leash pop down. Alternatively, you could use compressed air. That one's a little bit trickier to use because you have to be like right next to the dog, kind of thing. And it usually works better if the person that's being jumped on does the compressed air.
Right.
Or you could do an e-collar correction. And you know that you're using an effective punisher when the dog stops doing the unwanted behavior. So let's say you do compressed air and the dog still jumps up on people. That wasn't an effective punisher for that dog. It could be for another dog, but not this dog. So if you're trying something and you're like, I've punished my dog for jumping, but he still does it, it's not an effective punisher for that dog. So yeah, you were punishing, but it just wasn't the correct one for that one.
Right.
So what about you? How do you like to stop jumping?
I agree with everything you said. I usually go with prong, just because that's just what I've always done. But again, like you said, any punisher, it doesn't depend on the dog. You could have a dog like Blue who doesn't care about a prong. He doesn't care about prong pressure. He doesn't care about any of it. So luckily he's not a jumper, so I've never had to like go with other stuff for him. But yeah, I usually do like a hard, firm prong pop down, because the prong is great because it's directional. So it's gonna pop the dog down because you're not gonna jump on people. And then just about what you said about you have to have the dog do the behavior to correct the behavior. Some people are like, well, it's teasing the dog. But I want to set the dog up now why I can make it a training win. Now, while I'm prepared to correct it, I'm going to have somebody get really excited, and the dog is going to go jump on them, and then I'm going to correct it. And they don't get any pets. The person doesn't pet the dog. Now I'm going to have the person get really excited again. And if the dog comes up and he wiggles, but he doesn't jump, then he gets so much praise. So in this instance, I'm going to correct what I don't want. But then when you don't jump on somebody, you're going to get so much love. You're going to get some treats if you want them. You're going to get pets, and it's going to be a party. But be careful, because then if the dog jumps up again, you got to correct him again.
Right.
So it's going to be knowing the dog about like how much affection you can give. But yes, correct it hard, because honestly, no one wants dogs jumping on them. And I think this is a good question, because it's not something, I don't think a lot of trainers think about it or talk about it. Because I think with most trainers, like, this gets taken care of in like the first session, because the dogs learn really quick. Jumping on people doesn't get me attention. Keeping 4 on the floor does. And then we spend the whole rest of our training course doing all the obedience. So yeah, good question.
Right. Okay.
I rambled again.
Good. It helps people.
Yeah.
All right. When I run with my dog, I tell him heel, but he always seems to forge ahead. I try leash pops, but it's not working. What should I do?
So, for my personal opinion on this one, you should maybe not have your dog heeling in a run.
Yeah.
So, because it's just it's a lot harder. And not to say that there's dogs who can't do it, but the problem is you're probably noticing it a lot later, because you're running and you're focusing on running. So instead of your dog getting like an inch out of heel position, they're already like a foot ahead of you before you notice it. So then your dog's like, well, I've been running a foot ahead of you for the last 5 minutes, and now I'm getting corrected for it. So it's just messy. So I would focus on your running and then work on something different with your dog. So what I do with Blue is I've done a with me command, which basically just means stay in my bubble. So it's not a structured heel. It's just kind of follow me and stay in like my bubble. His bubble is like a big bubble. So I wouldn't make it as formal, or you can even make things even simpler. If your dog is on a prong, if you have them already know that if they're in break, the only rule is to not pull on the leash. They can just be in a break, and they just have to run with you because they can't pull on the leash.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't make it a heel command, just because it's too easy to miss the little things when you're running.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Don't tell them heel. It's just, it's too much. They don't, you're gonna change up your running pace, and it's not fair to the dog. It's just a lot easier and funner for everybody if they can just be next to you and just don't pull on the leash.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Question 8. My rescue dog is scared of everyone and everything. When I have people over, she hides under the bed. What can I do?
So I teach her existence. I actually did work with a dog that was similar to this. She would always hide under the bed, and then it morphed into, if the owners tried to get her out from the bed, she'd try to bite them. So I don't let scared dogs hide. That's perpetuating that state of mind, so their fear state. I'd make them just exist with things. So I'm not going to have this dog, just go up to somebody that she's scared of and make her endure them petting her. By existence, I just mean like being out around other people. So in this case, I would utilize the place command, which we talk about a lot, but
it's the best command.
It's so great. So she's not allowed to hide, and B, we teach her place, and then just get her used to existing around things that would normally trigger fear in her. So she doesn't get corrected for being fearful. All she has to do is stay on her place bed. That's all she has to worry about. So we want her to like slowly dissolve that fear of people, because she's too worried about holding her place. And then she realizes like, oh, these people don't mean anything. Like I'm fine laying here on place. So we're just changing her thought process and what her brain is focused on. And then if she breaks place, we'd correct for breaking place. But if she stays on place and people that are normally scary to her are around and she stays there, then you can reward. So it's just equal parts punishing for the behavior that she's breaking, but then also rewarding her because she's not breaking it. And these things normally would make her break. What would you suggest?
So, you stole the words right out of my mouth. No, place, honestly, like for really any type of dog who needs to be desensitized to something, so like the vacuum we talked about before, or people coming in the house, place is my go-to. Because place is like, just be calm. You hang out there. I'm not going to bother you. The vacuum's not going to bother you. The stranger who just walked into the house is not going to bother you. You stay there. You stay calm. Everything is fine. So a couple of things I did want to add, and I hope I remember them, is first, that's what they're doing right now, by the way. I got home yesterday, and this is one of their first times being together. They're just existing right now. They haven't gone nose to nose, nose to butt, haven't gotten close to each other to meet. This is just them existing. So here's an example of place mean existing. My other thing is know your dog. So as far as the rewarding goes, like, yes, you super want to like reward the dog for being calm in place. Just be really fair about that. So if your dog is out on place and you have like company over, and your dog would usually be scared of this company, but they're just hanging out on place, to start, you, the owner, should probably be the one to calmly walk over and give your dog a food reward if they want. I wouldn't have the strangers do that again, because then that's just like, scary person's coming over bringing me food. But she's probably going to break before the stranger gets to them, because they might like approach her head on really scary. They might whatever, because then if she breaks, then she's going to be corrected. Now down the line, when she's like gotten more comfortable in a place, you can have strangers toss food to her, if she's a food motivated dog. But just, I wanted to make it clear about the rewarding. You should be the one rewarding her, and the stranger should honestly just pretend like she doesn't exist. And you should talk to the people coming into your house, and very nicely but firmly, because it's your dog, not theirs. So be unapologetic about your boundaries.
Yes.
My last training post.
That's a good post.
When you have guests over, you need to make it clear with them from the beginning to ignore your dog, that she's in training and that she's scared and that she's doing her really very best to work through it. So if you can't come into my house, ignore her, then you can't come into my house. Because a lot of people will have that mindset of, well, dogs love me, or I'm gonna like make your dog love me. I just need to give her some food and it's gonna be great. So be sure to advocate for your dog while she's out in this situation. No, you're not gonna approach my dog. You're not gonna look at my dog. You're not gonna talk to my dog. You're here to hang out with me.
Right.
But yeah, I think those are my comments. But yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth. Place would be my go-to for that.
All right, my last question. How long should a dog stay in place?
Well, how long do you need them to be in place? No. So right now, these dogs are gonna stay in place until I want to do something else with them, or until it's time for potty breaks. It's gonna depend on your schedule. Like if your dog knows place, like they're finished training with place, they can stay on it for a long time. How long should they? I don't know. I have I don't know. I guess if you're like wanting to say like, I want to do duration work with my dog every day, how long should they do duration? Maybe an hour. And again, it's just going to depend on your schedule. If you are going to find yourself sitting down doing something for an hour, then that's how long your dog should be on place. But if you've got like a super busy day and you're like, look, I've got 15 minutes to sit down and eat my lunch, then you can put your dog on place then. So how long they should be on place for however long you need them to be on place.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Yeah. Like you definitely should be able to have your dog be on place for at least an hour when they've got place like down as a command. So it's like if you've been working with your dog for months and your dog can only do 15 minutes, something's not right there. Yeah. But again, there's no should. Like I wouldn't ever bash any owner that doesn't have their dog do a place for an hour every day, because everybody's lifestyle is different. But your dog should be able to at least do an hour place if you needed them to.
And sorry, side note, because about what you said, when I first started training place, I think what like our little like motto or whatever was, if your dog can hold a place for 5 minutes, then they know place. So if they can hold it for 5 minutes, they can hold it for 30, they can hold it for an hour. Being mindful of distractions though, like right now, no one's coming in or out of here. It's just me sitting here talking to my laptop. So if they can do this for 5 minutes, they can do this for 5 hours. Not actually have a whole place for 5 hours, but you know what I mean. So yeah, if your dog is like holding place for 15 minutes and then breaking, then you probably don't have a punisher that means anything to him, because then they're deciding, yeah, but I've been here for 15 minutes, I'm bored, I'm going to get up and walk away, and whatever the correction is going to be doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
So there's my little side note on that.
Oh, that's good.
However long you need. All right, and my last question, number 10. I have an 80-pound lab, and I want to get a Yorkie puppy soon. Is it safe to have 2 dogs with such a big size difference?
Depends on if they're going to be trained dogs or not.
Yes. I was going to say, I'm going to assume that this 80-pound lab is dog friendly.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So continue.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they were just left to their own devices and this is a crazy lab, then I would probably say no.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to train them, or let's say the lab is trained, then I don't see why not. It's just, well, like I said, if they're left to their own devices, of course it's going to be
Too risky.
dangerous. Yeah.
For any dogs.
That lab is a big lab and it could really hurt something. But with training, and you just teach existence and you do exactly what Rachel is doing right now. So the trained dog is going to be on place, and then you introduce this new puppy, and the puppy gets more freedom because it's a puppy and it doesn't know the commands yet, but you're still going to interact the same way. So go ahead.
Sorry, just to interrupt real quick. When you say introduce the new puppy, you don't actually mean bring the new puppy up to the place, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just wanted to make that little part clear.
No, yeah, that's perfect. Introduce just means, so I'm going to have, let's use Blue as that. So that's Blue. So Blue is the trained lab. Now I'm going to introduce this Yorkie puppy. Yorkie, yes. But it's going to be on a leash, and she's going to be just running around like a puppy, right? Because that's what puppies do. It would be really rude for me to let that puppy come up to Blue, the lab, because he's just supposed to relax there on place. And so if he gets uncomfortable because puppies are rude, he has nowhere to go. That's not fair. So introducing just means that she's going to be in the room and they exist together. That's the first step to anything with any dog, is existence first. So they're just existing, happy, and then the puppy's going to have a really structured life. So you're never going to be in a position where the lab's going to like run on top of the puppy, because the puppy's life should be structured. It's going to be crate time, free time, potty time, training time, crate time, and then you do that all over again. So yeah, it's perfectly safe, but just how are you going about it?
Susan, I love when you answer the questions, and it's just exactly what I think. It's exactly what I would say.
Just like the words flew out of my mouth on that one.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here, like everything you're saying, I'm probably sitting here like just nodding the whole time you're talking. I'm like, that is so true. That's exactly what I would say.
You can tell when I agree with you, because I'm like, and I smile, I'm like, yeah.
And it's so cool, because I mean, not that if we disagreed on things it's wrong, because there's many ways to do everything. It's just always like a little extra fun when I would answer a question this way to a client, and then you say it this way to a client. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So yeah, that's exactly what I would do for that. It's safe if you make it safe. For any 2 dogs, no matter the size difference, age difference, breed difference, whatever, to be left alone to their own devices is dangerous, I think. Too many what if situations with an 80-pound lab and a 15-pound Chihuahua. I don't know how big Chihuahuas are. A Yorkie, a little tiny Yorkie. Why risk them just free roaming? Because the lab gets the zoomies and he knocks over the Yorkie, which would probably be fine, but like, meh. Yeah, place is cool. I digress.
Place is the answer for everything.
Seriously, like honestly, between place and out, and obviously recall is super important. So if I really had to only ever train 3 commands, place, out, and recall. I want you to come to me. I want you to get away from me. or whatever you're focused on, and I want you to be calm.
Yeah.
So if I could only train 3 commands from here on out, those are the 3 I'd do.
Good.
But no, yes, that I just gave that little bit of information.
Bonus.
Yeah. So another Q&A Tuesday down. What number was this? Was this
7?
7? I think it's 7. I need to double check now.
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's nuts.
Okay. No, we lied, Susan. We're such liars.
6?
This is 6. But you know what?
That's okay.
Now we're on our second hand. That's so crazy. I love doing these. I'm like, can you imagine once we get like even just in double digits? Like just
No.
like 10.
I can't
That's
even
it.
believe we're at 6, really, because
I'm proud of us for keeping up with it because,
it feels like we just started.
right? But it also feels like only 6 because like I feel like we've like
Answered a little bit.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess 6, we've answered 60 questions. So keep them coming.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we have a little surprise coming to you in 2 weeks. We won't tell you what it is. We'll just surprise you with it. But we're gonna have a
It's gonna
special
be really
Q&A.
cool.
It's gonna be really cool. Special
Yeah.
Q&A in like 2 weeks. So make sure you get your questions in.
Yes, very important because you're gonna want to get those in for that special surprise. Yeah. I'm gonna not say anything else. So
Yeah.
thanks everybody for watching. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Pack Leader Dog Training and Rachel Kohler Dog Training. And yeah.
We'll see you next
cool.
time.
See y'all next week.